When you marry someone, you also marry their family. Some in-laws can treat you amazingly, while others can make life a living hell for you. But why does it matter if your in-laws are narcissistic, especially before you get married? Surely you can just avoid them and make a new life with your partner? Well, even if you manage to avoid your in-laws, if they are narcissistic, you may be in for more headaches and problems than you think. Looking at the obvious problem you can have is that your in-laws will make life difficult for you. They may outright criticize you, invalidate anything you do, and make you feel unwelcome whenever you visit. They may criticize how you raise your children and may even criticize your house. Often they will make you feel stupid or useless in your own home. This can be with overt behavior such as telling you how bad your decoration taste is, to criticizing how you cook, but it can be covert, where they will take items and shift them like a smidgen left or right and then proclaim, "There, that is better." They can also get between you and your spouse and try to break up the relationship. They may constantly call your spouse away to their house to fix things. Your spouse may spend more of their free time with your in-laws than with you. Your in-laws can also abuse your children when they visit, or they may try to turn your children against you. They may even humiliate you in front of your children. They may even try to take your children away from you and make false abuse claims against you. So in short, they can really be a pain in the ass. But if you avoid them, all will be fine, right? No, it won't. Your partner may have issues. If your in-laws or potential in-laws are narcissists, their children are going to have issues. Narcissists breed narcissists, so there is a high likelihood that your spouse may be a narcissist as well. Often narcissists keep a good mask on with only occasional red flags at the beginning of a relationship, but their parents are not as invested in you, and you are more likely to pick up the family is toxic from them before you realize their children are. You can also pick it up from your spouse's siblings. Even if your spouse is not a narcissist, they may be codependent, borderline, or have other mental health problems, which all create their own problems that you may not want to deal with. Blueprint of life. We all have thousands of beliefs. Some we know about, but many we are not aware of. These beliefs shape how we see ourselves and the world. It affects how we think. It affects who we think we are, what we expect of ourselves, and all our likes and dislikes. You can think of them as rules or subroutines constantly running in the background of your subconscious. Many of these we pick up before we were even 7 years old. Some will get updated as we get older, but most will not. Thus, the environment we grew up in, the things we saw, heard, experienced, read, and were told have a profound impact on who we are. But what many do not think about is that we have different models in life for different stages and positions. These beliefs form our expectations of children, teenagers, young adults, middle-aged, and old people. But we also expect a boyfriend or girlfriend to behave differently than a spouse, and a spouse to behave differently than a parent, and then again a grandparent to behave differently. Without thinking about it, we create blueprints for every model of life. We expect a banker to behave differently than a rock star, but we also expect the banker to behave differently at work than when we invite them over for a barbecue if the banker is our friend. We have all these automatic expectations of people and ourselves without even stopping to think about it or realizing that these expectations are influenced by our beliefs. Maybe you're okay with your boyfriend riding a motorbike when you are dating, but you expect them to sell it when you're married or have kids, as you now believe you have more responsibility. Well, what if they do not believe the same as you? What you see is not what you get. The problem comes when the model changes. We will automatically shift our behavior to be in line with our beliefs of how we think a person in that model should behave. For instance, we will behave differently when we get married to when we are only casually dating. And we will change our behaviors again the moment we have children. And if our children one day have children, we will change into what we believe a grandparent should be like. This is often why you will see your spouse suddenly change when there is a shift in the model or dynamics of a relationship. When you were dating, your spouse was exciting and maybe a bit wild. But the moment you got married, he or she suddenly changed. Or they changed the moment you have children and as a person who you cannot stand. Or worse, they act as if they are still casually dating while you have children together. What you may not realize is that you changed as well. You got along with them when you were dating, as your model of how a person behaves when you are just dating may have been closely the same as theirs, or their behavior excited you. This is often because you got a blueprint for how people who are dating behave, not from your parents, but from society and maybe movies. But your moral blueprint of how a married couple behaves, you mostly get from your parents, and how a grandparent behaves, you get mostly from your grandparents or other older people. So although you may have been very close on your beliefs when you were dating, the moment you switched to being a husband or wife, you went closer to how your parents are, and you expect your spouse to behave closer to or better than your parent or the opposite sex. But your spouse may behave closer to how their parents behave. See why it's important to meet your spouse's parents or the people who raised them? For there will be many behaviors of their parents they will mimic. And when you have children, how do you think they will raise your children? How they or other siblings were raised? Now you can make changes, but you have thousands of beliefs you don't even know you have. Sit and think how many things you do the same as your parents. How do you dress, tie your shoelaces, spread bread, the things you eat, the sports you like, and so on. Even if you change some major things, there will be hundreds of small things, such as do you leave the toothpaste cap off? Do you lift the toilet seat up or put it down? Do you squeeze the toothpaste from the middle or the end? Do you clean your fingernails? Wash your hands after using the restroom? And so on. Now you may think, crikey, how do I know what my spouse's beliefs are of how a parent and grandparent should behave, and how one should raise children, how one should handle money, and more? Your best indicator. The best indicator of how your spouse will behave when you marry them and have children with them is how their parents are, and how they will raise your children is how they were raised. Now, they may not exactly match their parents, for your spouse may be an overt narcissist where your mother-in-law is a covert narcissist, or your spouse may turn out to be a covert narcissist when your father-in-law is an overt narcissist. But if your in-laws are narcissistic or have narcissistic traits, there's a large chance that your spouse is a narcissist as well, or have narcissistic traits, and it may only show when you marry them or have children with them. But it gets more involved than just that. Our beliefs can be limiting as well. Listen to your in-laws. Do they always complain? Do they have financial problems? Are they in bad physical shape? Or have health problems due to poor health choices? Chances are your partner will make the same life choices and have the same limiting beliefs as them. So you may end up just as broke as your in-laws, even though you may now be making a fortune. Because the beliefs your in-laws hold were passed to their children and are deeply ingrained, that will affect their behaviors. Maybe your in-laws live frugally even though they have millions. Expect your spouse to behave the same as they get older, as that behavior may be driven by a fear of not having enough money. They may have worked their butt off to be rich as they were driven by that deep fear, but now that they don't make money anymore, they want to save every penny out of fear of becoming broke. Or your partner may be the opposite and just blow money like water. Takeaway. Study your in-laws or potential in-laws very carefully. Listen to what they say and the beliefs they have. Then take a step back and think how growing up in a house with those beliefs would affect a person. That will give you some insight into your spouse's mind and what awaits you in the future. You may just realize that although you love this person now, you are not prepared to deal with who they will one day turn into. Sit down and make a list of what you believe a husband and wife and a parent should be like, how they should behave, and so on. And then how a grandparent should be like. Then secretly prod your partner to find out what they believe of how a parent and so on should behave. And if they have fears of being broke or maybe other fears such as dying, for they may then avoid going to the doctor. When you get their answers, compare them to yours and see if you can live with a person who holds those beliefs. Make sure you ask them on topics that are very important for you, so you can see ahead if there are potential conflicts. Also compare their answers to how their parents behave. If it is in line with how their parents behave, you know where your spouse is heading and what awaits you in the future. If a warning flags start popping up that they are narcissistic, you may want to exit the relationship before you get too invested. If you're already invested, it may show you what is to come and that your spouse is not going to change. You may then want to take what you have left and head for the door.